Heavens. Hunter, where's everybody else?
Miss McClellan, I have no idea. I'll text him right now.
They were just here.
Exactly. Everyone's coming up with ideas for the senior prank in the group chat.
Anything really good?
They said they wanted to hire a 40-man mariachi band.
Oh my gosh.
We wanted to make a robot that looks exactly like Mr. Nightkirk and just replace him.
I mean, who would even know?
You're right.
Why are you spoiling our plans?
Okay, Miss McClellan asked. I forgot.
I did.
Why we made the group chat.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay.
Oh. I feel like that was like intro music to class.
It was nationwide.
Nationwide is on your side. Of course it was. It sounded like a jingle because it was a jingle.
That's right. Oh, Jay's Wi-Fi got turned off.
Oh, okay. Is he gonna be able to come then?
I don't know. I don't know where Alyssa is either.
Nationwide is on your side. Well, maybe we should start. I thought that they would be here. Maybe if I mark them absent, they'll show up. I realize that tends to be how it goes. And for some reason, right now, if people are absent virtually, we have to mark them as COVID.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's so weird. I'm like, but
Hmm.
they don't have COVID. I guess it's just because like COVID is forcing us to be at home. So like if they're absent in some roundabout way, it's because of COVID. Okay, so today we're gonna read sorry, I'm getting some sorry. We're gonna read this next little bit of the grammar book, and it's about developing paragraphs. It's about 5 pages, but all the pages are pretty short. Hopefully after this first quiz with the punctuation and everything, y'all have started to realize that this content is actually really helpful. So we should definitely pay attention. I'm not turning my camera on because I'm about to just share my screen with you. Oh, hey, there's Alyssa. Here she comes. There she is.
Whoopsie.
Whoopsie. I was like, where did everyone go? They were just here. And apparently Jay's Wi-Fi has gone out, which can't be helped. But what we're gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen with y'all. Tuesdays are the driest of days because I'm just reading grammar stuff to you. But number one, it's important, particularly for the quizzes. And number two, I don't think that y'all will probably read it if we don't read it together. I mean, if I were to trust any group to do it, it would probably be this one, but I'm pretty realistic about how much y'all will read stuff outside of class. So we're going to look at developing paragraphs. Like I said, it's about 5 pages, I think. And your quiz this week, you actually have 2 quizzes, and we'll take a little look at them after we read these things. But let's just get through these. So paragraphs help us organize our writing for our readers. Here, one writer recalls when he first understood what a paragraph does, and this is Sherman Alexie, who is a famous Native American writer. I don't know if y'all have read Diary of a Part-Time Indian, but he wrote that. He said, I still remember the exact moment when I first understood with a sudden clarity the purpose of a paragraph. I didn't have the vocabulary to say paragraph, but I realized that a paragraph was a fence that held words. The words inside a paragraph worked together for a common purpose. They had some specific reason for being inside the same fence. Ooh, I really like that. This chapter will help you build fences around words that work together on a common topic. It offers tips and examples for composing strong paragraphs. Yeah, I really like the fact that he kind of compared the paragraph to a fence because the words are working together for a common purpose. And we want to kind of think about that as we're organizing paragraphs. We don't want to just like throw all of our information into one big long paragraph because they don't all serve the same purpose. We kind of divide it into little subsections, which are paragraphs, a paragraph per main thought. Let's continue focusing on the main point. All the sentences in a paragraph should focus on one main idea, as they all do in this paragraph from an article about the Mall of America. There is, of course, nothing naturally abhorrent in the human impulse to dwell in marketplaces or the urge to buy, sell, and trade. Rural Americans traditionally look forward to the excitement and sensuality of market day. Native Americans traveled long distances to barter and trade at sprawling, festive encampments. In Persian bazaars and in the ancient Greek agoras, the very soul of the community was preserved and could be seen, felt, heard, and smelled as it might be nowhere else. All over the planet, the humblest of people have always gone to market with hope in their hearts and in expectation of something beyond mere goods, seeing a place where humanity is temporarily in ascendance, a palette for the senses, one another. Topic sentences. To help you focus a paragraph on one main point, state that point in a topic sentence, which would be like the first paragraph of, or the first sentence of your paragraph. Often, but not always, you might start a paragraph with the topic sentence like this one about this person is arguing in favor of the American Electoral College. I can't imagine why. The Electoral College was created by our nation's founders to prevent one region from controlling the country. So that's our topic sentence. The rest of the paragraph should build on and support this idea. When the United States was founded, most of the population was concentrated within a few states, and those states would be able to dominate the country if government were a pure democracy. Because of this population disparity, many small population states feared that the larger ones would force them to conform to any laws and legislation that the larger states desired, creating a tyranny of the majority. So the founders put multiple measures in place to avoid this imbalance. One of those measures is the Electoral College, which gives each state a voice while also reflecting the opinion of the general population. So all of that does contribute to the same argument that the person said in the first sentence of the paragraph. Sometimes you may choose to put the topic sentence at the end of the paragraph. See how the strategy works in a paragraph about high concept pitches, brief descriptions of potential movie scripts. Okay, this one's at least a little bit more interesting to me. So this is an example that saves the topic sentence for the final sentence. Jane Espenson, who has written for television shows such as Buffy the Vampire Slayer, reveals an interesting fact. Though TV writers don't use high concept pitches for episodes, they're expected to present worked out story ideas. The concepts that actually get picked up and turned into episodes are often not the fully worked out ones. Instead, they're the ones based on single sentences thrown out at the end of a longer pitch. Jane sold 2 ideas to Star Trek: The Next Generation using single sentences. One was Data is stranded. Data. He goes by Data. I do know who that character is. Data is stranded on a Luddite planet. And the other was every time we go warp speed, we're actually destroying the fabric of the universe. Jane speculates that the one sentence pitches are bought because the writers who hear them are able to flesh them out in their own minds. They want to be able to fill in the details. In this case, there was a benefit to leaving out information. Clarity means finding the right level of detail for the circumstances. And there's your topic sentence. Occasionally, the main point is so obvious that you don't need a topic sentence, especially in narrative writing, which is like personal writing, storytelling, like it has a plot. Especially in narrative writing, you may choose only to imply, not state the main idea, as in this paragraph from an essay describing a young man's realization about his cousin's life choices. College Point, Queens, they called it Garbage Point. I didn't agree with that for a while because it was home, but when I turned 16, I looked at College Point differently. Sure, it wasn't Compton or Chicago, but as in any city, it was easy to slip up if you hung out in the wrong places. I was still 16 when a family member, I'll call T, shot up heroin right in front of me. He was driving and I was unlucky enough to be in the passenger seat beside him. I was in for a rough ride. So even though we don't have a topic sentence here, you just don't always in narrative writing. Like if you think about reading a novel, most of the time it's not going to be organized in like a 5-paragraph essay type of structure. It's more likely gonna, I mean, you may have paragraphs that are only one sentence in a novel, and that's okay. Obviously, that can't be your topic sentence. Sticking to the main point. Whether or not you announce the main point in a topic sentence, be sure that every sentence in a paragraph relates to that point. Edit out any sentences that stray off topic, such as those crossed out below. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you can see what it's kind of talking about. Some of the difficulties this person encounters as a Latina who's not fluent in Spanish. This doesn't have anything to do with it. This doesn't have anything to do with it. So we just get rid of those. That's just extraneous detail that doesn't really contribute to the main point. So, developing the main point. A good paragraph provides enough good details to develop its main point, to fill out and support that point. Following are some common strategies for fleshing out and organizing paragraphs, and sometimes even for organizing an entire essay. So first off, analyzing cause and effect. Sometimes you can develop a paragraph on topic by analyzing what causes it or what its effects might be. The following paragraph about air turbulence identifies some of its causes. A variety of factors can cause turbulence. Here's what turbulence is. Here are some of the most common factors and causes. Classifying and dividing. When we classify something, we group it with things that share similar characteristics. The following paragraph uses classification to describe the various features formed by hydrothermal vents, cracks in the Earth's surface through which heated water is released. And it says, under the sea, hydrothermal vents can form features called black smokers and white smokers. The color depends on the minerals present in the water. On land, these cracks form land hot springs, fumaroles, which are holes in a volcanic area from which hot smoke and gases escape, and geysers. As a writing strategy, division is a way of separating something into parts. See how the following paragraph divides the concept of pressure into 4 kinds. And I mean, you've just got it here: economic pressure, parental pressure, peer pressure, and self-induced pressure. And then just more descriptions of that. Comparing and contrasting. Comparing things looks at their similarities. Contrasting them focuses on their differences, though we often use the word comparison to refer to both strategies. That's true. You can structure a paragraph that compares and contrasts in 2 ways. One is to shift back and forth between each item point by point, as in this paragraph, contrasting the ways men and women cyberloaf, which is a word I've never heard before, but it means using the internet at work for non-work activities. I definitely sit around and cyberloaf a lot, so I'm interested in what this says. Not a lot, but like a little bit. Although the consequences of cyberloafing are similar across different populations, Lim and Chin's 2012 study demonstrated there are some meaningful differences based on gender. There's your topic sentence, by the way. Men are more likely to cyberloaf than women, but when it comes to switching back to work, women take around 8 minutes while men take only 4. There are differences too in how men and women think cyberloafing affects their work. Men are more likely to say cyberloafing activities have a positive impact, while women tend to say they have a negative impact. However, Kim and Chin's results also show overall that many workers, men and women, believe that there are some positive effects. 75% of participants say that cyberloafing increases their engagement at work, and 49% say that cyberloafing helps them to solve problems at work. And most respondents believe it's not breaking any rules to browse the internet for personal reasons while at work. So they obviously they went back and forth on every point. Like, while men do this, women do this. Men might do it this way, but women do it this way. Men think this, but women think this, and just goes back and forth to compare and contrast. Another way we could do that is to use the block method, covering all the details about one and then all details about the other. Their example here is contrasting photos of Bill and Hillary Clinton. So let's just see how that's done. The next day, photos of the Clintons in action appeared in newspapers around the country. Many papers, including the New York Times and the Washington Post, chose the same 2 photos to run. The one of Bill Clinton showed him wearing an Indian's cap and warm-up jacket. The president, throwing lefty, had turned his shoulders sideways to the plate in preparation for delivery. He was bringing the ball forward from behind his head in a clean-looking throwing action as the photo was snapped. Hillary Clinton was pictured wearing a dark jacket, a scarf, and an oversized Cubs hat in preparation for her throw. She was standing directly facing the plate. A right-hander, she had the elbow of her throwing arm pointed out in front of her. Her forearm was tilted back towards her shoulder. The ball rested on her upturned palm. As the picture was taken, she was in the middle of an action that can only be described as throwing like a girl. interesting. But you can see here, it goes through all the details of what Bill's photo looks like first, what he's wearing, his throwing stance, and then it goes into Hillary, and again, like what she's wearing, her throwing stance, and it kind of shows the contrast in how they throw. He was from forward behind his head in a clean looking throwing action, and then she's throwing like a girl. Another way to make a comparison is with an analogy, explaining something unfamiliar by comparing it with something familiar. I'm not going to go through this just because I feel like reading all the examples is getting a little bit tedious and sort of long, and I don't want to take up time that we don't need to take up. But they're obviously using this analogy to show how DNA encodes genetic information through showing anagrams, showing how anagrams work. Okay, that's cool. Defining is another one. When you define something, you put it in a general category and then add characteristics that distinguish it from others in that group. The following paragraph provides a definition of anhydrobiosis, one way that desert organisms stay alive during droughts. And then it tells us what it is, goes into detail about it, shows us some examples. Describing is another one. I just want to see how many more of these we have. Okay. Describing. A descriptive paragraph provides specific details to show what something looks like and perhaps how it sounds, feels, smells, and tastes. Here, a paragraph weaves together the details of background, appearance, and speech to create a vivid impression of Chuck Yeager, who was the first pilot to break the sound barrier. Not gonna read it. Explaining a process. Sometimes you might write a paragraph that explains a process, telling someone how to do something, such as how to parallel park, or how something is done, such as how bees make honey. Cookbooks explain many processes step by step, as in this explanation of how to pit a mango. I wish I had read this when I was young. I cut my finger very badly while trying to pit a mango because I didn't know what I was doing. And then narrating, which again is just like plot based. When you write a narrative paragraph in an essay, you tell a story to support a point. In the following paragraph, one author tells about being mistaken for a waitress and how that incident of stereotyping served as a challenge to provoke her to read her poetry with new confidence. So she's got like her point, which is about stereotypes, and then she's got this anecdote to back it up. And using examples. This is our last one. Illustrating a point with one or more examples is a common way to develop a paragraph, like the following one. Oh, shoot, I might want to read this one, which presents several examples of country musicians whose music includes elements of pop, rock, and rap to make a point about the exclusion of Old Town Road, a rap country song by rapper Lil Nas X from the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart. So illustrating this example, country music gatekeepers are selective about how they use this muscle. Universal Nashville's white hip hop raconteur Sam Hunt is embraced by Billboard's Hot Country Songs and Meant to Be, a pop leading ballad by Bebe Rexha with Florida Georgia Line, is played ad nauseum. Taylor Swift could also lasso the country album's top spot for 16 weeks with her career realigning pop rock masterpiece Red. White country artists' rap collaborations also tend to get a pass. Jason Aldean tapped Ludacris for a remix of his country #1 Dirt Road anthem. Nelly's feature on Florida Georgia Line's bro country classic Cruise, I remember that one, helped it become country music's best-selling US single of the digital era. Yet when Black rappers draw from country styles, they are denied a seat at the table. So he's got this point that he's making and then backing up with all of these examples to make a bigger point at the end there. Okay. Give me just 1 second. I'm just flipping through to see how much. Okay. Making paragraphs flow, which can be a difficult thing. There are several ways to make your paragraphs coherent so that readers can follow your train of thought. Repetition, parallelism, and transitions are 3 strategies for making paragraphs flow. So first of all, repetition. One way to help readers follow your train of thoughts is to repeat keywords and phrases as well as pronouns referring to those keywords. Basically just talking about the same thing throughout your paragraph. You can see in this one that the repetition we're using is the word blog. And like, obviously right here, we've switched to bloggers, but it's all the same thing and all covering the same topic. So just kind of remind people what you're talking about. Instead of repeating one word, you can use synonyms. You can see here, predictably, the love of cinema has waned. But then we, instead of saying cinema, movies, films, movies, films. And that can help. I feel like using synonyms, it doesn't get as tiring to read as if you were just saying cinema, cinema, cinema over and over and over again. Parallel structures, putting similar items into the same grammatical structure helps readers see the connection among those elements and follow your sentences and your thoughts. Parallel structure is a thing that's like hard for people to wrap their heads around. I have had multiple students in my time tell me that when we first started learning about parallel structure, they were like, this is dumb and I'll never need this. And then they start noticing it everywhere. So it definitely is a very effective rhetorical technique. You can see here, and was spread by, and was spread by. So lethal was the disease. Oh, okay. So lethal was the disease. So rapidly did it spread. And cases were known of persons going to bed well, of doctors catching the illness at a bedside. Just repeating that same grammatical structure. Transitions help readers follow your train of thought and move from sentence to sentence, paragraph to paragraph. I can't overemphasize how important smooth transitions are. And this is, I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is handy to have. Whenever you're in these situations that are in bold, these are some common transitional phrases you can use for that particular situation. That's very nice to have. That's just examples. I'm not going to go through that. Transitions can also help readers move from paragraph to paragraph, and by summing up the previous paragraph's main point, show how the paragraphs are connected. A common way to summarize is to use phrases like these or this and such, like this. There you go. These personal networks. Okay. Starting a new paragraph. Paragraphs may be long or short. And just to reemphasize that, we get told in our earlier years, like in middle school, that a paragraph is like 5 to 7 sentences or 6 to 8 sentences or whatever. It doesn't actually matter. There's no hard and fast rule for that. Paragraphs might be long or short. As long as it's well developed, that's the important thing. But while a brief 1 or 2 sentence paragraph can be used to set off an idea you want to emphasize, too many short paragraphs can make your writing choppy. Here are some reasons for beginning a new paragraph. If you're introducing a new subject or idea, if you're signaling a new speaker in dialogue, if you're emphasizing a new idea, or if you're just trying to give readers a pause that they need or that's necessary in your writing. Okay, last page, writing opening and closing paragraphs. A good opening engages readers and provides some indication of what's to come. A good closing leaves them feeling satisfied. The story is complete, the questions have been answered, the argument has been made. Sometimes you may begin with a brief anecdote or story that provides context for your topic and then proceed to state your thesis. In the following opening paragraph, the writer describes a meeting of scientific management experts to introduce Frederick Taylor and other early efficiency experts. Let's not read this. You could also open an essay with a quotation, with a question, with a startling fact or opinion. Sorry, I just got freaked out. I thought that my Zoom had closed somehow, and obviously it hasn't, but I just got nervous about it. Okay. Those are other ways to open an essay. And then concluding paragraphs. One approach is to conclude by summarizing the text argument. The following paragraph reiterates the writer's main point and then calls for action. We're going to just look at this one. The bottom line is that drastically reducing both crime rates and the number of people behind bars is technically feasible. Whether it's politically and organizationally feasible to achieve this remains an open question. It would be tragic if the politics proved prohibitive, but it would be genuinely criminal if we didn't even try. That's actually such a good concluding paragraph, because it says directly, like, the bottom line is, like, this is the big takeaway from this essay, and like a bigger thought to sort of to take away from this as a call to action. Like, we need to do this. We need to try to fix these things. Other ways of concluding an essay: discussing the implications of your argument, which is what he's doing, by asking a question, by referring to something discussed at the beginning, or by proposing action, which he's also doing. In my opinion, concluding paragraphs are like the hardest thing to write. I just got finished grading my first round of essays for my AP class this year, and on almost every single one, I was like, we need to work on conclusions. They can just be the toughest thing, because it's just like, how do I bring something new to the table when I've already said everything I'm going to say? And I would say that the most important thing to think about when writing a conclusion is, what are the big takeaways, and what's like the major message that you want people to come away having learned. So keep that in mind. So on Friday, yes, I'm still here. Let me log in. On Friday, you'll have 2 quizzes, actually. I'm just going to go take a little look-see. Okay, so one of them is opening and closing paragraphs, and the second one is identifying main point and support in paragraphs. So I kind of just want to like look and see, sort of the way I did last time, just show you one question from each one so you can sort of see what it looks like. Let me share my screen again. Okay, so for this one, I don't want to make this too much bigger because I don't want you to see the answer. But you're going to be selecting the opening that more effectively engages readers and states a thesis. So looking at these, I would look, number one, at the first sentence and see if there's one that's like more interesting and makes you want to keep reading. And then the second thing I would look at is there a thesis statement, and is it strong? So just kind of taking a brief look at these 2, which one do you guys think is the more effective opening paragraph? Got a 50% chance of getting it right. Anyone?
I'm reading it over.
Okay.
The second one.
Hunter thinks the second one. Anybody else? Ooh, you know what? I kind of wish that we had already done this presentation. Actually, I don't know if I even did it with this class last year, but it's just about intros, thesis statements, and conclusions. And it's really helpful. So I might just post it on D2L at some point. So with this one, actually, I feel like both hooks are like equally as fine. Neither one of them is incredible in my opinion, but both hooks are fine. But which one has a thesis? And honestly,
I feel like the first one kind of goes into a body paragraph.
that it goes into a body paragraph.
Yeah, because it starts stating like examples and stuff.
That's true. So one thing about introductory paragraphs is that there are sort of like 3 parts to it, a hook, a narrowing down, and the thesis statement. And I actually don't think that either of these is very good, but that's not an option. I don't think that either one of them has a very strong thesis statement. But I would say the first one has a stronger thesis statement because they say schools that discipline these students for violating dress codes may be found to be suppressing student free speech or political expression. They're taking a stance like some schools that discipline people for dress code are suppressing free speech. Like that's definitely a stance that they're taking. Whereas the other one, the second one is like some schools are accepting, some are not, some are in the middle, but it's just kind of saying what's happening. It's not making an argument for either one. The other thing that I was going to say about this first one, so the first one is the right answer, by the way, is that it's got a hook. It might not be a great hook, but as long as there have been dress codes in school, there have been students testing the limits of what's appropriate. And then it starts narrowing it down. While testing high school dress codes is nothing new, some current students are defying rules by challenging gender norms for clothing. And I agree with you, Alyssa, that they're giving a little bit too much, too many examples that might feel more at home in a body paragraph. But they do have, overall, it's a more effective opening paragraph because it does have a better hook, it narrows down, and then it's got a stronger thesis. So the good thing about this, I guess it's good, maybe it might not be, is that this one is only 5 questions. Which means obviously if you miss one, it's a lot more off, but if you're getting them all right, then fantastic. And then our second one is identifying main point and support in paragraphs. And this is 10 questions. So I'm just going to a random one. I did not look at the answer. I don't actually know what the answer is. So let's just look at this one together. Read the paragraph carefully, then respond to the question about the topic sentence, main point, or supporting details. And this is asking which of the following sentences provides an example to support the main point of the paragraph. So what I'm going to look at first of all is what is the main point of the paragraph. And to find that out, I would look at the very first sentence and the very last sentence. As many landfills run out of space, some communities are making plans and tackling their heaping piles of garbage with innovative solutions. So I'm kind of expecting the support for this to be some examples of these innovative solutions. And then the last sentence says the cost and pollution generated by landfills force communities to think creatively about what to do with everything they throw out. That sort of sounds like it's talking about the same thing, some creative solutions to garbage. So let's look at these sentences. Which one of these supports the main point? The solid waste creates one of the biggest problems. Recyclable material is clogging landfills. I don't think it's going to be that. Much of the junk we consume and throw out is not designed with recycling in mind. That's true, but I don't know if it supports the idea that we're coming up with creative solutions to too much garbage. A few cities are planning new energy plants that burn garbage to produce energy while still producing less pollution than landfills. That sounds promising. It's talking about a new thing that people are doing with garbage. And then the cost and pollution generated by landfills force communities to think creatively about what to do with everything we throw out. That was also saying that we are trying to think creatively about it. So I narrowed it down to 50-50 for you. It's not going to be either of these two. Between these two, which one do you think provides an example to support the main point of the paragraph, which is that people are doing innovative things to use their garbage more responsibly and waste less? Between these two, what do you think?
The third one?
The third one, this one?
Yes.
I think you're absolutely right. Let's check. Yay, Hunter and I are right. Yeah, it's while this fourth one mentions that we're thinking creatively about what to do with everything we throw out, it's not an example. It's kind of just saying what the main point is. Whereas this one is a good example of what some of those innovative solutions are, planting new energy plants that burn garbage. So that's kind of what your questions on this one will look like. It might not all be like which of these is support, like which of the following sentences would be an effective alternate topic sentence. Which of the following sentences does not provide support for the topic sentence? So it is a lot about support and like what's the main point? What are some examples that support that main point? So we have some minutes left. I don't know what time this class is over. But IXL is an option. It will continue to be an option. And I went and highlighted or recommended some topics that would be more helpful towards this. I emailed a couple people individually about some stuff. So check your email and see if I emailed you. And if I did, make sure you do what I said to do. I think that's it. Tomorrow we're going to, what are we doing tomorrow? We are reading tomorrow. More interesting reading. We're actually reading two things tomorrow. One of which I've never read before, but one of which is by Stephen King, who is a cool guy. It's not about scary stuff though, so no worries there if you're squeamish about horror. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.